I'm on the couch in my parents' home in Jersey. I fell asleep, and I had this dream, bro, that I was pulling up to the studio, and Michael Jackson was in the red shirt in the window, looking like out the window as I'm pulling up to the studio.
The red cross button joint.
The button-down joint he always had on. He always had a red one and a blue one, the red one. And I woke up from the dream, and I told my parents, I said, I just had this dream. It was so vivid. And I was like, I was going to the studio. Michael Jackson was in the window. Not even 15 minutes later, the phone rings. It was this lady named Carol Bayer Sager. Say My Name was out at the time with Destiny's Child. She goes, I love Say My Name. I would love for you to come to my house in Bel Air and write with me. I think we should do a session with Michael Jackson. I said, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna get on a plane tonight. And I'm gonna check into a hotel, and when you're ready, I'll be there.
Yeah.
Facts. I'm driving up her driveway in Bel Air, and in the window with the red shirt, bro. I'm looking as I'm driving, like, yo, that's Michael Jackson. He got the red shirt. I'm gonna get on the phone, calling my dad, like, Dad, the dream is really real right now. I even told Michael the dream, like, he was like, well, that's what's supposed to happen.
Rodney Jerkins, a.k.a. Darkchild, is in the building, man. It's the Ebro show. You are going into the Songwriters Hall of Fame, man.
I'm in the Songwriters Hall of Fame, man. I made it. Does
it feel like that for you? Is it, you know, people giving you your flowers, other songwriters, you know, the industry saying, yo, join these other great names?
Yeah, I mean, it's an amazing feat. I think when they told me I was the youngest to ever get inducted, that was something that really blew my mind. I was like, dang, yo, like, you know, when you're doing this, you're not thinking about that stuff. When I'm a teenager on that bus riding from Atlantic City to New York to try to get my music heard, I'm not thinking about Songwriters Hall of Fame. I'm not thinking about Grammy. I'm not thinking none of that. I just want to be heard. Right. I just want people to see that I have a talent, I have a gift, and I want people to hear it. And then you just start to work and accumulate success over time, and then you just like, well, how do you keep evolving? How do you keep going and you keep building? And next thing you know, somebody's in the background taking notes, right? And they're like, he scored 50 this game, he scored 40 this game. It's been pretty consistent. And then that leads to something great.
I want to get into the new stuff that you've contributed to today. Also, your new music, right? You just did an amazing thing for us here at Apple Music Nashville Sessions, where you've introduced us to some of the music you're making now. Because I think it's important for people to know that, you know, all of the stuff you've done, the Brandies, the Michael Jackson, you know, all of the stuff you've done in the past, that was that's a chapter in your book. But you've been here with us, giving us greatness any way they'll, you know, whether you're just playing keys on a thing, come with a melody on a thing, you're continuing to contribute in this thing of music that you love so much and using your talents. But I want to start with you and this piano, man. Which is and even I follow you on Instagram, so I'm very aware of even your children have taken to getting on this piano as well and their instrument. How does that feel as a father when you start to see this thing come out of your children that also came out of you?
It started with my mom. My mother was a housekeeper, and as she was cleaning houses, one house in particular, she knew that these kids were taking lessons from this one guy. His name was Carl Tamarelli. And I come from a church background. Everybody in our house played gospel music. But my mom wanted me to learn classical music. But she couldn't afford that teacher. But she was bold enough one day to ask him, can you teach my son? And he finally said yes. He came over to the house. I did not want to play piano, by the way, but it's a house rule. Right. My dad, you got to
everybody in the house.
You got to play the piano. You want to live in our house? You got to play the piano.
Wow.
So
do you appreciate that now?
100%.
Got it. At the time, you was tight.
I was tight. But I started taking lessons, and I grew to love it. And then, you know, I was 5 years old. By the time I was probably 11, I started finding my way to production because my brother was 7 years older, and he was doing production. We have a house rule in my family now. My wife and I, our kids, they have to play 2 instruments, one being the piano. Everyone has to play the piano. Our 4 kids play the piano. And then my oldest daughter plays guitar, cello, and piano. My oldest son plays piano and he doesn't want to pick up the second instrument, so he plays golf. And then my daughter, who's 12, she plays violin and piano. And then my youngest 10-year-old Royal, he plays cello and piano. And at the Songwriters Hall of Fame, they did The Boy's Mind for me. So they did The Boy's Mind.
That's dope.
All of them playing instruments. And it's crazy. You know,
Dad was crying. You was crying.
Just to know that, like, man, like, you know, when you giving so much of yourself for years, and then you have this moment where you're being honored, and it's your children doing what you do, right? And way better too, by the way, because I can't play all those instruments. I play piano and drums. And, you know, but I heard when I was creating The Boy's Mind in the beginning in 1997, when I was working on it, I was hearing violins and cellos and harps and all these different things, not realizing that would be the very instruments that my kids would be playing.
Incredible. All of those string sections that you love to use on many hits, they always say if you could play the piano, you could play any instrument, because obviously you could find the notes and obviously synthesizers. What I like to remind people is early AI.
That's right. Thank you.
Which is artificial intelligence from that time,
Thank
right?
you.
All those
That's
drum
right.
machines, all that stuff was
That's
AI.
Right. That's right.
Right?
That's how I tell people.
Right. And so, but you was hearing things. At that time, were you bringing people in your early days where you're like, hey, I need, and then telling them, hey, play this?
Yeah, well, when I was doing, like, when I started with The Boy's Mind, which was probably my first song that I actually started using, like, the strings and different things on, for some reason, like, I was listening to the sound of Philly, Gamble and Huff.
A lot of orchestra in there.
Yeah, but, like, even if you notice, like, disco music had the 4 on the floor, if you listen to Boy's Mind, it's a slow BPM compared to disco. It's 93 BPMs.
Yeah.
That's slow compared to disco, but it was still 4 on the floor. So if you go back and listen now, you're like, hey, he's right. The Boy's Mind is actually 4 on the floor. It's like this, right? But then they had the strings, because the strings to me conveyed emotion in the story of whatever lyrical story you're trying to get across. The strings to me bring you into that emotion, right? And so I was listening to Gamble Huff like, yo, I want to do that for now. And I called this guy right from Philly's guy by the name of Larry Gold, incredible composer, cello player. He played on a lot of those Gamble and Huff records. He did Cry Me a River for Justin Timberlake, just a dope. He did a lot of my songs. And I was like, yo, Larry, man, I've been following your work. I want you to come and help me with this piece. And he brought his cello in and he started coming up with this, da-da-da-da-da-da. And I was just like, oh man, here we out of here now. Yeah. You know, and then I started to incorporate that in even more songs, because I was just like, yo, no one's doing it right now. No one's really bringing that type of flavor. And
because you had the drums, right? So you had the hip hop drums.
Because I'm a hip hop kid anyway.
Right, and then you had the beauty of the orchestra.
Yeah.
You had the soulfulness that you was gonna lay in there with the keys and her and Brandy and Monica's voice. So you was pulling for all the good pieces.
Yeah, and I think my identity from a creative standpoint was always to try to create timeless pieces of music, right? And when I look at music, I kind of look at music like, what is it going to be 30, 40, 50 years from now? The style of music will change in so many different ways, but when something's timeless, you can bring it into any era. That's why Burna Boy samples He Wasn't Man Enough, and this comes last, and it's his big hit, right? Because it was great then, and it'll be great now, and it'll be great 20 years from when somebody has a new concept for it.
I also want to play that Gina Thompson classic, which is just, I mean, if you know, that's one of those, like, if you from a certain time.
That's right.
And honestly, that was the first time we heard Missy, right?
That's very New York of you to say that, by the way. That was very New York.
What, the Gina Thompson?
Yes, it very well, because you got to understand, like, I'm right from South Jersey.
Right, so
Gina's right. I discovered her in South Jersey.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so when we did that record, and that was like, man, for me to hear that on Hot 97.
Yeah, Funk Flex was burning that.
Killing it. Yeah, he was killing. I was like, bombs. Like, yo, this is crazy, you know?
But you picked the right break beat, the right melody. It was just an energy. It was a bop, man.
And the right rapper that no one really knew about.
That's right.
Missy Elliott. Yeah, she bodied that.
I never believed that Monica and Brandy actually had problems. I always thought it was a marketing thing. And then when it came to verses, like remember they came back around and then you started seeing kind of the diva thing play a little bit, and you was like, oh, wait a minute. When you start, I mean, as a songwriter and producer, you're just making records. But you've been in so many rooms with so many big names, big egos, whatever the public drama is. How does that affect your process at all? Like, are you able to block that out?
Yeah, I have a job to do, and my job is to psychologically understand the artist that I'm about to work with, right? And sometimes you can miss that, right? Because the time of that. Let's say if I got a session and I only got one day to work with this artist, which many of my songs were 1 day moments, right? You don't have time to really get to know them and study, right? You don't know if that day is going to be a bad day. That artist is going through something. You don't know. So quickly, I got to just start, getting in there and trying to figure it out. I was fortunate enough to work with Brandy a lot before the Monica thing came. And I knew that there was definitely some competition there.
Well, because they're both just amazing vocalists.
Yeah, it was
Brandy's competitive.
And they were young, though. You got to remember, they both, Monica's probably like 13 starting, Brandy's like 14 starting. So there's that little thing right there. Which girl is going to be the one, right? And, my man, Paris Davis, Brandy's A&R was like, yo, we should put Monica on this record with Brandy. Because it was a Brandy record. The Boy's Mom was Brandy's whole record. And he was like, yo, I think it'd be dope to put Monica on it. And everybody's like, that's not going to happen. He was like, nah, I think if you get on the phone with Dallas Austin, who works for her, and we start chopping it up. And we got on that phone, and then it was a lot to get that done.
Yeah, I can imagine.
No. It was I'm talking about we had to count ad-libs. They had to have even amount of ad-libs, which was crazy, by the way, right? And just the stuff that we had to get, we had 5.
Did y'all have to debate who was the first verse and who was this?
All of that. We had to mix it 5 times. Craig Kalman at Atlantic, he had his mixer that he wanted.
Right.
Clive Davis, represent Monica,
so
had his mixer.
You had the record label politics.
Yes.
You had the ego of the artist.
It was all of that. It was all of that.
Recently now, you've got new music dropping. Just dropped the Apple Music Nashville sessions. And you're leaning into your spirituality and your Christianity a lot in the music, which is a foundation of black music, which I don't think is celebrated enough. How much of the things that we love in black music are rooted in the church. How much of our talents as black people are rooted in what the black church represented to the community, speaking, singing, playing instruments, all of that, right? And just tell us what you created here with this.
Man, I'm so excited about it because it's not what you think it is, right? I'm rooted in faith. I'm a strong believer in my faith and all that. But I wanted to do something where it was like, where people can listen to my catalog actually, but still hear where I was and where I'm going. So I brought in Jon Keith, No Big Deal, and Hovey, 3 artists that I love and admire in the faith and the Christian hip hop space. But like Jon Keith's song "Eyes on Us," he's actually rapping over The Boy's Mind. Right. All orchestra too, by the way. Right. No drums, none of that. It's just orchestra.
Which is super hip hop.
Super hip hop.
The Songwriters franchise in there. Songwriters playlist actually for Rodney Jerkins. That song Genesis we talked about before we started recording is right at the top. Oh, really? You did it for Ray. What did you do on this record? How did you, work with Ray?
Yeah, I was in London doing a session, and it was crazy, man. Like, this session was crazy because it started with chords. I was just playing some progressions, and she started saying she wanted to do something about light. And I said, well, if you want to do something about light, then we need to open up scripture. And I said, we can go to Genesis right now. We can find something about light right now. And we did that. We opened up the scripture. And funny, because she called the song "Let There Be Light." If you see, that's the tag throughout the song, right? So my man Shanks and Tony was with me, and I was like, yo, I hear a sound like this. I didn't have it, but I heard it. And Shanks is kind of like a dope sound designer kid. I said, yo, find me the sound. And he started going through a bunch of sounds. And I couldn't see what the sound was, but I could hear it. And once he played this once, I said, that's the sound. And he laughed. And I said, why are you laughing? He said, because the sound is called Genesis. It's like, word? And then we finished this song, right? We still didn't name it Genesis yet. We finished the song. And I leave London, I go to Orlando. And as soon as I got on my car in Orlando, there was a Genesis in front of me. And I hit Ray and I was like, I think we might need to change the title. So I said, Genesis is just hitting this everywhere we go, it's Genesis. But yeah, scripture led to the lyric of that song. And yeah, I guess it does go to what you're saying, like, right? Like you can have messaging in a record. I still think that it all has to line up.
Yep.
This last 10 years to me, music has been somewhat really interesting because I don't know that it's feeding us the right way. Like everyone still has a soul, right? We need to be fed. Our spirit needs to be fed. And that's why I launched Aliens Alive, really, right? Because I was like, man, like I want kids to be able to experience dope music that's saying something and artists that are giving their truth and what their truth is, what their reality is. And that's what we've been doing.
How'd you meet Mike? Was it a phone call? He called you? He heard them keys on the record?
I met MJ when I was 16 years old. So my mentor who inducted me into the Hall of Fame was Teddy Riley. Thank you, Teddy.
Shout out to Teddy Riley.
Teddy, I'm in Virginia Beach, down with Teddy. I'm down there. And Teddy, all I know is 3 Quest vans pull up to the studio one night. And Teddy goes, yo, everybody get in the vans. We going to New York. I didn't know why we was going to New York. He didn't tell us. He just said.
So what time frame is this you're down there with Teddy?
I started coming down there with Teddy when I was 14 years old, bro.
But what year was it? What year is this?
But by the time this is like.
So were you and Pharrell at Teddy's? Were you and Pharrell at Teddy's studios at the same time?
Kind of. Yeah, like he was there. I met him there. I met Pharrell there, and then he started moving in his own direction like that. I was still going down there. I was younger, of course. Yeah. So I want to say probably like 93, 94 is kind of around that time frame when Teddy was like, yo, we getting in the van, all 3, we're going to take 3 vans. And I'm in the van with Teddy. I'm in his van. This is me, Teddy, and Daryl Schuler's driving. And we headed to New York, right? So in the back of the van, Teddy, all I heard him playing for 6 hours from VA to New York was Michael Jackson.
Off the Wall, Thriller, or just
whatever 3 albums in a row. So it was Thriller, it was Off the Wall, Thriller, and Dangerous, actually.
Oh, he was playing Dangerous. Yeah, because Dangerous was out.
He did that already. So he was playing those 3. And I'm sitting in the back, and now I'm like, I know Teddy because I've been working with him. And I'm like, yo, he only plays artists like that as if he's studying them. That's what I'm thinking. Like, it's not just a leisure thing. Like, when he had to work with Mary while I was down there, he was playing Mary all day. So
trying to catch the vibe, catch the tones.
So I'm in the back like, yo, but he never told us why we going to New York. We get to New York, and we check in the hotel like midnight. And all I know is like 1:15 in the morning, my phone ring in the room. He's like, yo, little bro. So he said, meet me in the lobby. Like, all right, go down in the lobby. And we drove over to the Hit Factory. And then he still didn't say nothing. We get to the Hit Factory, and we walk in the room, and it's Michael. And he was like, yo, I want you to meet this kid. He's super dope. And Mike, just being Mike, was like, hey, and I was like, yo, I'm going to work with you someday. I said this to him because that was like one of my dreams. And Mike was like, he kind of laughed and was like, oh, okay, like, played on. And I was serious, of course, but, whatever. So that was that. Now, fast forward, like literally 5 years later, I'm on the couch in my parents' home in Jersey. I fell asleep. It's going to bug you out. It's going to bug you out. I fell asleep, and I had this dream, bro, that I was pulling up to the studio, and Michael Jackson was in the red shirt in the window, looking like out the window as I'm pulling up to the studio.
The red cross button joint.
The button down joint he always had on. He always had a red one and a blue one, red one. And I woke up from the dream and I told my parents. I said, I just had this dream. It was so vivid. And I was like, I was going to the studio. Michael Jackson was in the window. Not even 15 minutes later, the phone rings. It was this lady named Carol Bayer Sager. I don't know if you know, she wrote the song That's What Friends Are For. She wrote some stuff on Off the Wall. She goes, Say My Name was out at the time with Destiny's Child. She goes, I love Say My Name. I would love for you to come to my house in Bel Air and write with me. I think we should do a session with Michael Jackson. And I'm like, when? She was like, soon, like real soon. I said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to get on a plane tonight and I'm going to check into a hotel. And when you're ready, I'll be there.
Yeah.
Facts. Went to LA, checked in. 3-4 days later, she called me and said, can you come to my house today around 1 o'clock? I was like, yeah, I'll be there. I'm driving up her driveway in Bel Air. She still lives there to this day. I'm going up, and in the window with the red shirt, bro, I'm looking as I'm driving, like, yo, that's Michael Jackson. He got the red shirt. I'm literally getting on the phone, calling my dad, like, Dad, the dream is really real right now. I even told Michael the dream. Like, he was like, well, that's what's supposed to happen.
Of course he said that.
So we work together, man. You know, Michael's the greatest.
He is, right?
Greatest, hands down.
When Mike's, you know, from outtakes that I've heard and stories that I've heard, Mike creates, and you tell me if this is fact or not, Mike creates kind of in his head, right? Like it's percussive, it's very almost beatboxy.
Yeah,
right?
he would leave me messages all the time with the idea of a groove or the beat that he wanted for us to work on that day. Yeah. He beatbox all the time. I got a whole DAT still with just beatboxing of him. I'm like, yo, go in the booth. Just go in the booth and beatbox for me. Right. I got that. Like, and he's just like, he's real percussive.
That's amazing. What do you have a favorite that you did with Mike?
That didn't come out or that came out? Something. Oh, I mean, Rock My World, man. Like this was his last song that came out of him being alive that went to radio, right? Because Butterflies still came out, but he didn't know video for Butterflies. But Rock My World for sure. Like that was like the 6th track. I remember it was the 6th track that I worked on when I started working on stuff and ideas for him. That was the 6th one. And I was like, yo, I got a groove, Mike. It feels like I'm in church again. He's like, really? I was like, yeah. He's like, I love churches. He used to say, church is so gut bucket. That was his word, right? But like, boom, that's church, bro.
Yeah.
Like I can play it on organ and you be like, yo, that's a church joint. You change the rhythm to this and it's church.
That's right.
So that's my all-time favorite song that I did with Michael, even though I did some cool stuff with him, but that's one that stood out.
And now Angel in Disguise, which is a Mike-ish, but those words together, Angel in Disguise, isn't that from
Yo, you're a genius for
Human Nature, right?
Yo, you're a genius for this, bro. I'm gonna tell you why you're a genius for this. You ready for this? You're absolutely right. That literally came from Human Nature.
That's right.
But check this out. My first session with Mike was in February of 1999 at her house, at Carol Berry's house. That was that day. Right. The track that I played for him was part 2 of Angel in Disguise.
What's part 2 of Angel in Disguise?
Watch this. I was working on it for Michael that day. He ended up not using it on the album, but it became It's Not Worth It on Brandy's Full Moon album.
Damn.
And if you listen, Michael's on there.
In the background.
On the background of Full Moon.
Yeah.
That's how that happened.
Yo! Crazy, son.
And I still have the cassette tape of that first session. This dude is so great that he's one of the only artists that he could blend his notes together, his harmonies together. When he sings in unison and then he does the harmony stacks, he can stack, and you be thinking it's still one note. Right. You be like, yo.
He's that precise.
That's how, no, he's so imperfectly perfect, if that makes sense. His imperfection is his perfection. And what I mean by that is, I would work with other artists before Michael, and I would be like, yo, take the headphones, like I'm hearing too much noise going on, like take the chains off or something, like I'm hearing, right? When I worked with Michael, it was the opposite. I'll never forget telling Michael, I was like, yo, Mike, man, your headphones are too loud, number one. And I keep hearing you tapping your feet and all that stuff is starting to add on all these. And he said, that's the jelly. Which we say is the sauce.
The sauce.
He's like, that's the jelly. I was like, what? I'm like, yo, I'm in the school of Barry Gordy and Quincy Jones right now.
Yeah.
I said, what you mean? He goes, that's the feeling.
Right.
So
That's
I got
the human
So I
piece.
got all these tracks.
Yeah.
No one does that now. I got all these tracks, and I'm going through it. I'm hearing his feet. I'm hearing his hand. I'm hearing him snap just randomly in one place. He'll just clap, not consistently, just one time. And he wanted to keep all of that. And I'm, as a producer, I'm trying to make it as clean as possible. Like, maybe we should get rid of that. No. Keep that. He different, bro.
Well, and also, too, we live in a time where rappers don't even breathe on the songs. They be, you know what I'm saying? Like, you be like, yo, bro, my man, you gonna leave a breath? Leave a space, breathe, something.
And his breathing is part of his percussion.
That's right.
So he like, my life, he's literally making it part of the rhythm.
Right. Mike. Yo, it's Rodney Jerkins, man.
Yeah.
You got somebody that joined you today.
Yeah.
Yo, come on over, bro.
Yes, sir.
Jon Keith. You know what I'm saying? Come sit down, man.
Yes, sir.
You know, introduce yourself. Sit over there, yeah. So, rapper or singer?
Yeah, I say artist.
Okay.
I've been rapping longer. It's weird because I've been singing longer than I've been rapping, but I've been rapping professionally longer than I've been singing.
Okay.
So like, I didn't even discover hip hop until I was 14 years old, but music has always been in my family's house. Me and all my brothers, all my siblings, we play instruments. You know what I'm saying? My mom had us in music classes. We was playing on the worship team in church and all that. And I was always singing songs, you know what I'm saying? But we grew up on it was like CeCe Winans, it was Michael Jackson, it was Stevie Wonder, you know what I'm saying? And then there was actually some country records. And then I joined this nonprofit organization when I was 14. And they introduced me to, obviously I knew what hip hop was, I knew rap, but I was never drawn to it. What's crazy is I was in this studio, it was in a garage, and it was like a program, it's called the Davis Hart Foundation, or FIRE. I was a student there. They let homeless, at-risk, and incarcerated youth come in and trade good grades and good behavior for studio time.
Oh, dope.
Yeah.
That's dope.
Yeah, and they're doing amazing work. I graduated from there. I started working there for a while, so that was my last job. But that's still my family down there in San Diego. So, but in that garage, there was a signature up at the top of the door, because in the studio, if you record there, you got to sign the door. There was a signature up at the top. It was Lecrae's signature, and so they're showing us hip hop, and it was Christian music, and that was the first time I heard hip hop that I was like, oh, this is communicating things that I've thought and I feel like so clearly, and I've never experienced this before. You know what I'm saying? And so I was 14, I dove into hip hop. And so from 14 up until really the last couple years, it's been rap. And I've been able to sing, you know what I'm saying? So I put it in records here and there, but that it's I love rap. But I love music, you know what I'm saying? And so I'm kind of on the same page as him, as melody is king. And so even in a lot of my hip hop records, it's very melodic, you know what I'm saying? And so the inspiration, so just recently, we've been working on a project, and it's pop. It's all singing.
It's great to meet you, man. Let's get into this. Eyes on Us, Boy Is Mine, Jon Keith here. Rodney Jerkins, Darkchild, you all over this production. You get that Nashville session so you can feel where Rodney's at right now, right? And obviously the bro Jon Keith is on that. And then we got the songwriters, playlist available on Apple Music, where you got the, Angel of Mine, Monica on there. You got One Wish. You got Lady Gaga, Beyonce joints you did. Shoulda Let You Go. That Keisha Cole. The Whitney Houston joints, the Mariah joints, man, the Mariah Carey, Your Mind,
Yeah.
Sam Smith, a lot of people don't know you're on that.
Yeah.
What now? Did you do all of Stay With Me?
No, this is the Stay With Me happened where a guy by the name of Dan McCarroll at Capitol Records, he was like, I got this record that we love, the artist from the UK named Sam Smith. It was just piano and vocals. And he was like, I think it's a great record, but I've given it to Dr. Dre. I've given it to 4 different producers, and they just haven't given us something that we like. And I was like, let me get that thing. And so I took home and I pulled it up, and I was like, it just needs church. Yeah. And so I added the organs and the tamarines and the stomps and the choir vocals. And I started adding a lot more. And as I started adding a lot more, I started realizing I'm hurting the record now. Right? And I'm like, I can kind of imagine like my mom as a choir director and I'm on the drums and she pointing like, stop playing now. So I had to go back and I'm like, yo, let's pull some of those things out because Sam needs to be the star. Like his vocals is crazy. I went back in and got it right and then I sent it to Dan and he was like, you nailed it. And I sent the email to Nick Raphael, who was Sam's A&R in the UK. And he was like, thank you, you nailed it. And I said, I'll see you at the Grammys. And exactly what happened.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, like I think we won like 3 or 4 that year.
And then even on here, you got What About Us, Brandy.
Yeah, bro.
That's a bop. That's a super bop.
That was a fun one because what made that fun was like I was getting back in the studio to do Full Moon, the album, and I was getting back in the studio with Brandy, and something told me like, yo, just switch your style. Like just go somewhere else. And I didn't think about it much. I just knew that like I wanted to turn Quantize off. I'm an MPC head. And I turned Quantize off because the MPC already gives me a natural like bop swing. But I'm like, what if I just did a whole album where I turned Quantize off and then now it's just true to me? Like there's no computer controlling what I'm giving it.
Straight, it's me and the machine.
Yeah, and I play drums like that. Like people laugh because I actually play like kind of off. So I was really just doing what
Mike call it? Mike call it the
the gut bucket.
The gut bucket.
So I just like
we like that little jankiness.
I just started going like this, and I was doing those rhythms, and that's how we did that album.
There you go. What happens now? Like, you had mentioned some of your business endeavors going forward and what you're working on musically, and like where is it? You helping people? You said you mentioned working with Mary J. Blige. Like, give us the whole playbook.
Yeah, I mean, I love listening. Of course, Aliens Alive is my focus. My artists on there, Jon Keith and Alex Jean and T.J. Carroll. We just got a really cool roster of talent, and got some new talent that I'm about to sign that I'm excited about. I want to just help push that all the way, and we want to really take over that space as a whole. And then there's just certain artists that, if they want to be on some positive vibes, then we can rock. And Mary's one of the ones where it's like, I feel like I could work with her because the stories is going to be authentic. It's not going to be derogatory. It's not going to be put in a place where my kids can't listen to it. Mm-hmm. And that's just the space that I'm in right now spiritually. And
now, word on the street is you've been doing songwriter camps, and we heard that Victoria Monet, who's obviously having her moment right now, comes from some of your songwriter camps.
Yeah, I started songwriter camps back in '99, bro. My first songwriter camp was at Whitney Houston's house.
Wow.
200 joints in like 4 days.
Wow.
Yeah. And
now, was this something that was already happening?
No, I started it.
So the way I hear I'll be like, labels are having songwriter camp.
I am the start of the camp. Just like how I started the producer tag, I started the camp.
I didn't even know you started the producer tag.
You didn't, I didn't process
what
producer did you know?
Right, but I didn't even think about it. I didn't even think about it.
Right?
Right. I didn't even think about it.
Yeah, so the songwriter camp for me was like it was a way for you to compile a lot of songs in a short period of time.
Right.
Right?
Artists are looking for songs. I need to get as much as I can.
In a very community style, but yet competitive nature. Right. And a lot of my songs from, Coco, Sunshine came out of a camp. Right. J-Lo songs a lot of songs of mine came out of camps. And I still do these camps. I'm probably doing about 4 a year now. And I want to increase it to probably 8 a year. Yeah, it's incredible. When I think, maybe I'm a little biased with this, I think my camps is the best camp in entire. A lot of people are doing that, a lot of publishing companies, labels, but to do a camp is not about just getting people together. It's about, of course, the batting, for me, the percentage of what's going to come out of it, right? And we always hit it out the park every time I do it. And then what happens?
Is this an invite-only thing?
Yeah, but I'm going to build a platform around it. But what happens, let me tell you what happens, though. What's so beautiful about these camps is that I did one recently in Chattanooga. and everybody came out to Chattanooga. But now people don't even know each other. So imagine you got 17, 18 people and nobody knows each other. But when they leave, now they have
their own communities.
There you go. I did it in Chattanooga. One of my writers that was there flew to London, went to Atlanta from there, then flew to London to work with one of the writers that was from London there, literally a week later. And now has a single coming out on that artist.
Yeah, so it's a spark. It's networking in a lot of ways for them too.
It works, but the way that I do it, I feel I can't get my secrets away.
Don't get a sauce.
I do something different that I think is better.
Don't get a jelly away.
Yeah, better than any other camp.
Listen, Rodney Jerkins, a.k.a. Darkchild, Jon Keith, nice meeting you.
Yes, sir.
It's been the Ebro Show, a very special episode. Check out the Nashville sessions on Apple Music. Check out the Songwriters playlist, the whole franchise, but obviously we have the Rodney Jerkins feature in there too. Thank you guys again for coming through.
Thank you.
Yeah.